I'm Eric Felten, and this is Beyond Category. We're here at Blues Alley in Washington, D.C. to hear one of the most celebrated jazz musicians in a generation, saxophonist Joshua Redman. We're going to talk to him about his life as a jazz musician, but first, let's hear some of the music. Joshua Redman, fantastic. That was really
Thanks,
great.
man. It's good to see you again,
Yeah,
bro,
great to
after all
see
these
you.
years.
Yeah. That was a tune that Sonny Rollins played, and in a context, the trio context, saxophone, bass, and drums that is so associated with Sonny Rollins. How much Sonny is there in what you're doing?
Sonny is one of my greatest influences, not just as a saxophonist, but as an improviser. When I first heard him, somehow hearing him, it was like a key to me in terms of improvisation. Hearing Sonny, I realized that improvisation can be at once completely spontaneous and immediate and in the moment, but at the same time have this unerring structure and logic, like an organic narrative. You know, Sonny always tells a story when he plays. It's always a spontaneous story, but it's always a story.
Do Mack the Knife, you could do that pretty straightforward, but you've got these sort of riff elements that you've built in that give some structure also in the context of a trio being such a free context. How do you make that balance between the structure and the free ability?
I don't know. It's a crapshoot, you know. I mean, but it's definitely something that we strive for. I've been playing with Reuben and Greg for years, and so we have. I mean, they're two of the greatest musicians on their respective instruments, but we also have just a great rapport and a great familiarity and a great trust and a great friendship, both on and off the bandstand. And so I feel like, you know, going into battle with those guys, you know, the odds are stacked in our favor.
Yeah, and you can take chances that way.
Yeah, if you're willing to take that chance, if you're willing to take those risks, the rewards are all the greater, all the more bountiful.
Now, one of the other influences in your playing is your dad, Dewey Redman. Tell me about your dad.
My dad is one of my great influences, and for me, one of the great tenor saxophonists. He played with Keith Jarrett and Ornette Coleman and Charlie Hayden and led his own groups. What he had that he brought to every stylistic context that he played in, and he played in so many different stylistic contexts. His sound, the depth of soul in his sound, the warmth, the humanity, the vulnerability, the strength, the power of his sound, this deep, soulful, bluesy Texas tenor sound, that infused everything that he did. And that to me is something so essential and so magical and also so almost inaccessible to me. You know, I played with him for about 2 years consistently in his band, and I got my butt kicked night after night after night, solo after solo after solo, because no matter what I played, no matter how strong my ideas were, you know, no matter what sort of technique I may or may not have had, just all it took was one note, one beautiful, singing, warm note from him. Just that's all that needs to be said.
Getting the sound together, that just takes like long tones. You got to have some real discipline to do the simple work that goes into tone.
Yeah, and my dad always told me, I didn't grow up with my dad, so I knew him from afar and knew him more from his records than in terms of like being there with him on a day-to-day basis. But you know, when he found out that I was starting to play saxophone, he told me, he said, practice your long tones, practice your long tones. And that was the last thing that I wanted to do, you know. I mean, I didn't want to practice to begin with, but, you know, at you know, 11, 12, 13, hormones raging, you know, saxophone, you know, I wanted to rip, you know. And so I never worked on my long tones. And then I got to New York in '91 and realized for whatever else I might have had, I had no sound, you know. So Father knows best.
All right, well, Joshua Redman and his trio. That was beautiful.
Thanks.
I love the sound you get on soprano saxophone.
Soprano is can be a nasty beast.
Intonation is tough on that horn.
Intonation, just really only over the last couple years have I felt like I finally have begun to understand how to play the instrument.
Now, you are sort of your own worst critic and,
Sure.
and sort of relentlessly critical of your own playing. And what are the pluses and minuses of being so critical of your own work?
The plus would be, for me, that's been my engine, that's been my motivation. Music for me for a long time it wasn't something serious. I was serious as a listener, but not as a player. My disciplined nature went into academics, so music was kind of a release for me. I'd play and I'd feel great, but then afterwards I'd think about, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, and that for me has been that's been my engine for improvement, for evolution, to get better. So that's the plus. The minus is that self-criticism can be debilitating. And I would say, especially when I turned pro, I mean, for the first 5 years, maybe even 10 years, I would walk off the bandstand a lot and feel like, really feel like I should quit. You know, so, and I've learned to temper that.
And was that something where recording would exacerbate that, I imagine?
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you start doing a lot of recording, you have to listen back all the time.
Yeah, but sometimes I didn't even need the recordings. I could remember, I could remember all the things that didn't go right.
How do you bring that discipline to the playing while still maintaining the joy and the release of the music that was always what was most appealing to you about it?
The spontaneity thing, the joy thing, the being in the moment, the music is fun. That was something that I felt, okay, I've got that. That's always been there. I feel secure in that, secure enough in that I can now bring in, a more rigorous, disciplined approach, and it's not going to spoil the fun.
Is there anything you wish you knew when you hit the scene initially that you know now?
The cliche advice that older musicians give to younger musicians: take your time, be patient, don't play too many notes, use space, use silence. I mean, I heard those things and I knew those things when I was younger, but I couldn't do those things. You get some experience, you get some years, and your playing does take on more patience, more serenity, more maturity. Still the explosiveness, still the excitement, but that's just something that comes with time,
I'd love to sit in and
Let's
play
play
something
a tune.
with
Let's
you
play
guys.
some blues.
All right, let's do it.
Just like old times.
Wow, what an amazing band. I'd like to thank Reuben Rogers on the bass, Gregory Hutchinson on the drums, and of course, Joshua Redman on the saxophones. I'd also like to thank Blues Alley for hosting us, and thank you for joining us. I hope you'll join us again soon for more good music on Beyond Category. I'm Eric Felten.